is great to welcome Jeff Brown, who has an amazing career that has spanned the decades. He's played in heavy metal bands Wildfire and State Trooper, and was also in the mighty glam rockers Sweet. He's the founder of glam rock supergroup, the original Jukebox Heroes. He tours in his leather trousers with the Tremolos reincarnation, the Trems. He's with classic rockers Cats in Space. And Jeff has also written and released his own solo album, 23 Years. He is an exceptional bass player with an exceptional voice. Jeff, it's so great to have you with me here today.
Oh, thank you, Claire. It's lovely to see you again. You've obviously done your homework. You know more about me than I do.
Well, I think we should go back to young Jeff in the early days with all your hopes and dreams and when you first picked up that bass guitar.
Yes. What would you like to know?
So how old were you when you first played the bass?
I first really started listening to music and getting into music when I was about 12 or 13. And I was at school, and there was a couple of guys I knew, and I really liked the drums. So I actually got a drum. Mum and Dad bought me a drum kit, not a very big one, just quite a small one. But when I was a kid, and I tried to learn how to play it, and I learned a couple of beats, and then I got to meet some guys at school, and one of them's brother was a professional drummer, and he taught him how to play like 3 different beats. So he was much better than me. So basically, but he had a guitar at home, so I sold the kit and picked up the guitar and carried from there. Basically carried on.
And what kind of music were you listening to at the time?
Oh no, it was Jimi Hendrix, Black, Deep Purple. I like Slade. You know, it was the sort of beginnings of the glam rock era was really sort of kicking in at that point. Mark Bolan. I wasn't really a Sweet fan at the time, funnily enough, until a friend of mine's sister was playing the B-sides and they were quite rocky. So then I liked them.
I see. And then you got into them a bit more. And was it at the same time that you also knew you could sing like that, or did that come later?
No, that came much, much later. I Going through the career, I'd only ever done backing vocals. I'd never been a lead singer, a vocalist in my life. I had no intentions of it. I had no aspirations of being a singer. It wasn't until fast forward to right to the Sweet, and it was the end of the 90s. And we were on tour in Germany, and our singer had to go home. He had a bit of a throat problem, and we still had like a couple of weeks of shows to complete. So Andy said to me, "Well, you do it." I was like, "Huh?" And I said, I don't, you know, I've never done lead vocals. He said, "No, you do it. Your voice is closest. You do it." So he obviously saw something that I didn't realise was even there. And that night I wrote out all the words, even though I've been in the band like 10 years already. I knew all the choruses, but I didn't know all the verses properly.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I wrote them out on big lumps of cardboard, and I had them between the monitors. Like so concentrating on that, I wasn't thinking about playing the bass. So I just played the bass, you know, on autopilot, trying to get the words right.
So I think it must be quite hard to concentrate on bass while singing because the melody sort of goes over the top and the bass weaves around. It's quite different, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah.
And when I started to think about it, I got it wrong. So the trick was,
Yeah.
I do stuff now. I learn the song on bass,
Yeah.
learn the vocals, then I sing
Yeah.
along and I play a bit of it until the two mesh together nicely. So I don't think about doing one or the other.
Right.
It just comes out in one
So
go.
if you don't think about it, it all goes off great.
Yeah, hopefully.
I guess you must have been quite nervous then, taking the reins. That's, big shoes to fill. And I know you've been playing with Sweet for years by that
Yeah.
point, but, that's a big challenge, isn't it?
It was, and yeah, let's just say I've never really been. I was only ever nervous on my first ever gig, and that was a school many, many years ago. So I've prided myself. I never got nervous. I got excited. I got apprehensive. But that night, I must admit, the nerves were kicking in because it was just I only had the afternoon to get it together, and in the evening we did the show, and it was like we'd gone from a 5-piece to a 4-piece, and suddenly I'm in the spotlight, and I wasn't sure whether I liked it or not. Subsequently, it's all worked out quite well in the end, but it was, it was pretty nerve-wracking at the time, I've got to say.
I imagine. And what did it feel like doing those big shows, when you did like the TV with the massive audiences?
Yeah, it's funny. The bigger the show, the less nerves I feel. Or it's kind of when if you're doing like a I don't know, Hammersmith Odeon or O2 Arena or anything like that, you generally only see the first 3 or 4 rows anyway, because the lights are in your eyes. So you
Mm.
can't see. It's only when the lights dim and they put the house lights on, sort of thing, and you suddenly go, Jesus, there's a lot of people in here. But I don't. I love it because you can work off the crowd. But I love. It doesn't matter if it's a small crowd either. I'll still work the same and put the same show on. Always. I just love
Absolutely.
what I do.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's that feeling of being in front of a live audience, no matter how big or small, and you're bringing
And
them
if
that
they're
joy.
Yeah, and if they're interacting with you, you saw us the other week, and
Yeah,
and when the crowd are going with you, it's like, yeah, this is great,
we were
and
all having a brilliant time. Honestly, you're so
as we were,
entertaining. Yeah,
we were too, we
yeah,
were feeding off you guys, so yeah,
yeah.
that's for us,
And that
that's
does make a difference as well when you can tell the artists love what they're doing. They're not just going through the motions, but they're generally having like a really, really good time.
yeah, absolutely. Because I mean, if I was just going through the motions, I couldn't do it anymore.
No, because you've been
I'm
doing it a
tired.
long time.
I have. I did my first gig when I was 14, just 14, and that was, I say, going back to what I was saying earlier about the
Yeah.
neighbourhood, the neighbouring school to mine, who we always used to every end of term they used to go and have a fight down there, But so playing in their youth club, it was crazy, it was pretty nerve wracking, and I
Yeah.
showed nerves that night, but that was the first gig, and I'm still doing it, sort of, what are we know, 50 years later.
That's amazing, isn't it? So after you left Sweet, so that was 2003,
Yeah, that's
and
correct.
then a couple of years later, you joined the Tremolos.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
and it's kind of evolved.
yeah, yeah. It's evolved through time. I mean, like most things, with bands with names, i.e., like the Tremolos. I mean, there is a version of the Tremolos going out now, but there's, it's the son of one of the guys who used to be in the early lineups,
Yeah.
Jody. In fact, really nice guy, Jody. I used to play in a band with him, funnily enough. And when Chip Hawkes formed a band many years ago, Jody was a drummer and I was a bass player. So he's a really nice guy, but his dad's allowing him to go as the Tremolos now. So that's why when that was happening, we carried on as the Trems, because for legal reasons we couldn't use the name Tremolos.
Fair
But
enough.
however, that's just to clear that little bit as to why we're called the
Hmm.
Trems. But yeah, it's carrying on the legacy of the Tremolos really. I was pretty much, I came out Sweet 2003, and then there was 2 years where I played with various other bands, did sessions and things like that,
Hmm.
and then I got a phone call from Dave Munden from the original Tremolos drummer. Him said, "Can you sing Silence Is Golden?" I said, "Yeah." I didn't know if I could, to be honest. But I said, "Yeah." He said,
Of
"Great, because we
course you
need a
could.
bass player." Well, I really didn't know, I just went, yeah. Because we'd worked with the Trems so many years, with so many, throughout, like the 90s, we were doing a lot of festivals in Germany, and the Tremolos were always there. Dave, Rick, Joe,
Oh,
and Davey, the old bass player,
yeah.
and we used to bump into them all the time. And those boys, they like to party. So and I joined them in 2005, and over the years, of course, Rick retired. We lost Dave, unfortunately. Joe, the keyboard player, has not been well, but we're just carrying on the legacy of what we feel is a dedication to the Tremolos, basically.
Which is lovely, and you always finish the evening with "Silence Is Golden," don't you?
Well, yeah, that's the false tab. Yeah, we do
Yeah.
that, and we come back and then we do Even the Bad Times Are Good afterwards, which
Yeah.
is a party song. But to
Yeah.
actually finish a set on a slow
Yeah.
song like that, a cappella
Yeah.
style as well,
Yeah.
it's quite unusual, but it works.
I
It
bet, yeah,
works.
there's not a dry eye in the house.
Well, like I said, it does go down well. I've got to say,
Mm.
it does go down well. It's and it's a lovely feeling because the whole place, you could hear a pin drop,
Yeah.
a false ending to on it, and
Mm.
the audience they start clapping, and I just like that, and they just go. You hear one or two people go,
Oh.
but it's lovely, and you see the audience, because predominantly it's quite an older audience,
Mm.
obviously. But you can see them going back to their youth in their eyes. You can see it,
That
they're back.
nostalgia.
Yeah, yeah, and it's a lovely feeling.
Yeah.
Lovely.
In today's lineup, you also have Northampton's very own Mark Wright with you, don't you?
We do, yes, a local boy. There.
He is indeed. And you've just released a Christmas single, Christmas Morning.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, Scott, the keyboard player, a new keyboard player, he's only up the road. He's only in Aylesbury, and he wrote this song and he brought it to us, and we said, "Well, that's a nice little song. It's a nice story. I think it's very personal for him, So when it's personal, it normally comes out better, you know. And
Definitely.
it's a lovely song, and we've spent time on doing the arrangements and everything. And it gets the boys have put it on one side, but it actually gets released on Bandcamp tonight at midnight tonight. It goes live.
Exciting stuff. It's definitely like one to sway along to, isn't it? With your
Yeah,
candle or your lighters, you know.
yeah. It's I know it's quite an emotional one. It's quite an
Mm,
emotional one. So if anyone's had a bit of a rough time recently for whatever
yeah.
reason, I think the emotion it will
Yeah.
invoke
For a moment of
emotion.
reflection. I agree. And I like your little cheeky Merry Christmas at the end. I'm
Yeah.
looking forward to seeing the video for that, actually. That would be
Yeah.
great.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, that's in the process at the moment. That's being put together at the moment. So hopefully, fingers crossed, it'll be ready before Christmas. So
Oh, yeah. Got to get that out there in time.
absolutely.
Um, let's talk about the original Jukebox Heroes. So you founded this group, and this is like, it's a real glam rock super group, really, isn't it? So how did you go about selecting your lineup for that?
Excuse me. Well, it was many. Well, it goes back to pretty much around 2005 again.
Mm.
And when I was sort of in the twilight years of sort of not twilight years, lost years of between the Sweet and the
After
Trems.
Sweet and
Um,
finding what to do next.
Yeah, and I an old mate friend of mine, a guy called Gary Mobley, another guy from Aylesbury now. He's actually Australian, but he was in the Suite as well at one point in the 70s. So he actually played with the original band in the 70s, and he played with the Bee Gees and John Miles and all these different people. And he had an incredible resume sort of thing.
Mm.
I believe when you read through it, it's like bloody. Oof, sorry, that's real.
Bleep.
Blimey, that's good. Um, and yeah, I was good friends of him. We used to live near each other in London, and we used to go out drinking every Wednesday night on a Wednesday night club we had with some friends. Anyway, long story short, we got together, decided to put a little band together. And originally we had asked John Verity, who was in Argent. He took from Russ Ballard in Argent, and he had his own band, Phoenix. John's out on the blues circuit now, doing really well. He's an incredible singer, incredible guitarist. We had a guy called Bob Henry on drums. Bob was in Argent as well, but he was in the Marbles as well, and he had his own music shop in London in Wardour Street called Henry's Drums. Very, very well known, respected drummer. With him and my old mate Steve Worley, who used to be the singer with Slade, the front man. He took over from Noddy Holder, and when we toured with Sweet Slade used to tour a lot in the
Right.
late 80s and 90s, all
Yeah.
across. Steve was in the band then, so we got together. So we put the band. That was the original lineup
Yeah.
of the band, and then John had other commitments, so him and Bob went off and did something else, and then we had a guy called Gary Nuttall, who actually Robbie Williams guitarist, which is bizarre. But
Mm.
he loved the 60s and 70s stuff. And he came in for a while. And we had a guy called Pete Spencer from Smoke, the original drummer from Smokey, come into the band. And they were both there for a while. Then we did some shows. We went to Moscow to do some shows, and Pete couldn't do that one. So we brought in Pete Phipps, who was the original drummer with the Glitter Band.
I
But
see.
he's also played with XTC, the
Yeah.
Eurythmics,
Yeah.
loads of other bands like that.
Brilliant.
Those
Yeah.
bands. Yeah, he's a brilliant drummer, Pete, and
Mm.
he's still playing with. He's actually playing with Mud with Rob Davis and Ray Styles now. Funnily enough,
You all kind of interweave, don't you, in and out of these
it,
different bands?
it does,
Yeah.
And I was doing another project in Germany for a band called the Rock Classic All Stars, and then they were bringing in different artists and some friends. I'd bring some friends over to play, and they brought over Eric Faulkner from Bay City Rollers. But Eric wouldn't come without his guitarist, and his guitarist was Phil Hendricks.
Ah,
We met
good old
that
Phil.
night. Yeah, oh, he's Diamond Phil. I mean,
He's brilliant.
we call him legend, and he is. He really
He
is a
is,
legend.
yeah.
And he came with Eric, and we met that night in Germany, and we got on like house on fire. I mean, we'd known each other for years, you know.
That's really important, isn't it, as well, to gel with the
Really.
people on stage? Because otherwise, if you're not liking the person next to you or you've got beef with them, you can tell, like the energy changes and the audience know. Your crowd
Yeah,
will know.
absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's basically in that respect, they're just in it for the money,
Mm,
which is nice, but it's not. You've got to have fun. Otherwise, it's just not worth doing it. Get
no.
another job. But Phil, we have a really good banter between us. It's always back and forth, taking the mickey out of each other.
Yeah.
Um, and we got on great. And then I came back and did some shows with Eric Faulkner's Basically Rollers with Phil. And I said to Phil, listen, we're doing this Jukebox Heroes. Are you interested? He's like, yeah. Because Phil is an aficionado. He's an oracle of everything 70s. He
Yes,
knows
yeah.
everything, down to the record company numbers, the label numbers of every
He's
song.
incredible.
He
Yeah,
is,
yeah.
And so he came in. And so then the lineup was Pete Phipps on drums, me on bass, Gary Mobley on keyboards, Steve Worley and Phil Hendricks. So Steve then dropped out because I think he just had enough. He didn't like playing Slade songs anymore. He had a bit of, I think he just had a wobble and he just decided that that's it. And Gary Mobley did the same. So I knew Dave Major from T-Rex days when
Yeah.
he finished T-Rex, and Phil knew him, and then we brought in Dave Major, and then Dave joined the band, and then Phil said, I've got another mate of mine who's really into the 70s stuff. In fact, he was the lead singer with Paper Lace.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Philip.
Cool. Yeah, exactly. Mr. Wright himself, another Wright.
Yeah, another Phil, yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's another Phil and another Wright.
Yeah.
Seldom, as we used to call him. Seldom Wright. So Phil came in for a while. So that was the band for quite a few years. Phil Wright, Paper Lace, Pete split the band, Phil Hendricks, obviously Basically Rollers, and later Merrill Osmond, of course, Dave T-Rex. So we carried on. Then Phil decided he was going to concentrate on doing Paper Lace, and we thought, well, what should we do? So we needed another guitarist. So we brought in Paul Cornwell, from Dozy Big Gimmick and Titch. He was formerly with Herman's Hermits before that. So the lineup you've got now is Paul, Phil, Pete, Dave, and me.
That's it, who I saw a couple of weeks back.
Yeah, well, actually, Paul wasn't there that night because he was on tour with Dozy that night, and he'd had I'll tell a lie. He was actually had a hand operation. His hand wasn't fit enough.
Crikey,
So
you need that working, yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, when it's your job, I had a hand operation last year, and it took a long while for it to heal. In fact, it's still not healed properly now. But
crikey, did you really? So, what was the problem? Like tendons, or?
What I call trigger finger. In other words, I would wake up in the morning and the finger would be like stuck down like this.
Oh, is that like arthritis then? Something like that? Or?
No, it's not. It's not because it didn't hurt. It was just stuck. And I pull it like this to make it to free it.
Yeah.
So that operation, I just got a little scar there, and they basically cut into there, and they cut whatever it was around it, and they said leave it 10 days and you'll be fine. Well, actually found out afterwards I should have left it 2 months.
Oh,
But
really?
I was back on tour in 11 days. On the 10th day I had stitches out. 11th day I was flying back from, because I live in Belgium.
Yes,
so
you're across the pond, yeah.
I flew back, and the next day went straight on tour with the Trems on the Sensational 60s tour. But I had to tie those two fingers together, so I didn't use this one and just try and use these two.
That must have been incredibly hard, but I'm sure you still sounded amazing.
Well, luckily enough, the 60s stuff you can play is quite...
You get away with it.
It's not like Cat's Space stuff. I couldn't get away with it with Cat's Space stuff. But the Trem stuff, it was...
yeah.
But, yeah...
I'm glad you've recovered now.
Yeah, I mean, I can play. I would say, well, that's a first because you couldn't before. What I normally say. But yeah, no, it's kind of it always feels a bit stiff because that's just scar tissue inside. So I think I'm stuck with it now. But I've learned to adapt and play slightly differently to how I used to. So it's all right.
Oh, wow.
Right. Yeah.
I guess you've got loads of different bass guitars. How many have you got?
Much to my wife's dismay, I've got 34.
34. Have you got a favourite one? Like a special child, or have you got, the different ones for the different functions?
I have. I mean, I've probably got about 15 or 20 that mean a lot to me. But yeah, no, I've got a few that mean a lot to me, and the ones that aren't precious about, they're not really worth any money, so it's not worth selling them. So I keep them.
I think you should. Yeah, why not? You know, bass player for all those years. So it makes sense that you've been adding to your stock as you go along. Relax. The bass player is here. Yeah, well, we always feel in safe hands, don't we, with bass players? You're grounded, you know. It's that bottom end
Some might
we can
disagree with
trust.
that.
Let's talk about your solo album now, because this is brilliant, really. You know, this shows off everything that you can do. 23 years. Good. I'm glad that you've got that there to hold.
Ah, yeah,
That's
there
when
you
you've
go.
got the gavel on the front there.
That's it.
Yep.
That's it.
So
Um,
this is a
sorry.
bit of everything, isn't it? Yeah. So it's like melodic rock. Is that how you'd
Yeah.
classify it? Sort of classic
Well, yeah.
melodic rock.
It's classic rock. I say.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love melodies and harmonies in songs, and I think that. I think a lot of that goes back to the Sweet days, because obviously it was all the massive harmonies with Sweet, and I think
Yeah.
that stayed with me over the years. And of course, I mean, I love bands like Foreigner, Journey, etc. You know, Boston, you know, things like that. I love that 70s
Yeah.
vibe and the harmonies and the melodies of those songs. I think that's what for me makes a song, you know, stands the test of time, because people can sing melodies.
Mm.
In the latter part of the 80s and 90s, you know, you had these people playing like 1,000 miles an hour on guitar. Brilliant. Eddie Van Halen, stunning, you know, hero, you know. But people don't normally go away singing a guitar solo, but they'll go away singing a melody. So
Yeah.
that was
It's
my
those kind
sort
of feel good anthems, and it's just, you know, that's
that's
something then you can hold on to, and it's a bit of an earworm, then, isn't it?
yeah, that's what I was hoping for. And of course, yeah,
Yeah.
there's a few biographical songs on there as well, you know,
Mm.
certain parts of
Yeah.
my life, you know.
Yeah.
But it has to
Sort
be
of. Had you been writing these songs for a long time, then sort of putting them in the bank, or did you think, right, no,
no,
I'm going to write my solo album and here goes, kind of thing? How did it happen for you?
pretty much that.
Mm.
You know, I wasn't in Sweet anymore, and I come out and I thought I had a few ideas, and I did put ideas across, but they were kind of not really taken seriously. A lot of the time when you're in a band, and a lot of people might disagree with this, but I found it to be true, is that when you're the bass player, it's very difficult to get your songs past the guitarist and the vocalists.
Yeah.
Not in all cases, but I found that in the past.
Yeah.
Um, and the only way you could actually get your own songs out there is if it was your band, i.e., Iron
Yeah.
Maiden, Paul McCartney, Lemmy, Thin Lizzy. You
Yeah.
know, they're fantastic, amazing songwriters, but they were also the leaders of the band,
Yes.
pretty much.
Yeah.
So they couldn't have anybody telling them that they wouldn't have those songs. So basically, I just kept all the ideas in the back of my head and what I had, and I bought a little studio which I didn't really know how to use, but I just put backing tracks down, and suddenly it got coming through, you know, and I ended up sort of within, I don't know, it probably took about 8 months to get all the songs together
Hmm. So
for
did like
me.
the lyrics come first then, or
No,
no? So
it's half and half. You know, I
right.
mean, I
Yeah.
never found that there was like a certain recipe to writing a song. I
I
think
see.
it just came.
That's
Sometimes
good.
I'd play chords and I'd just sing a load of rubbish over it, and I thought, oh, that's a
Yeah.
nice melody, and I'd
Yeah.
record. And then I put words to it afterwards, or I'd have an idea for words in my head, and then I'd
Mm.
think, well, what chord? You know, that's quite a rocky one. That, oh, yeah, I'll go. So it just, I don't really know. There's no real process. It just wrote what came to me at the time, and that was a very, very, for me, very productive time. And I did all the demos, and I found a studio in Germany that I've been working with Rock Classic All Stars, because we put out a live album in Germany, and the people who run the studio said, look, have you got any songs? I said, well, yeah, I have actually. Can we hear them? Would you like to record them here? I'm like, yeah. So that was it. So I went over there, and over the next sort of, well, it was quite a long process. It was probably about a year, but it was in and out, you see, because I was going on tour and doing
Doing
things. So
other things. Yeah.
yeah, and the studio was busy, so when they had
Yeah.
downtime, you know, I'd go over
Yeah.
there and stay there for like a week, and we'd do bits and pieces, and then I'd go back again, and I'd come back a couple of weeks later. So it's quite a long, drawn-out process. But the songs evolved, and I got two guitarists in from Germany to play, and a guy called Peter Zaghetti
Yeah.
and Nico Avanitis, who were
I'm
both
glad
playing
you
them.
said that, because I had no idea how to pronounce his name.
Yeah, Avanitis, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he's Greek, but he's obviously German.
Yeah.
But they both play with the Rock Classic All Stars, and they were also in a band called Warlock,
Yeah.
which was run by Doro Pesh, and Doro's now out solo. as a metal singer. She's done incredibly well. But Warlock, they were a big band in the
Yeah.
80s, very big.
Yeah.
And a drummer called Jurgen, I can't remember his Reinbach, I think it was. I would put, I'd have a look, but I can't see. I haven't got my
Well,
glasses.
you've got some fine musicians on there,
Got some
haven't
great
you?
Gary
Yeah.
Moban played the keyboard as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've got some great players on there,
Yeah.
and I'm very proud of it.
It
Very
must
proud.
feel great, actually, because that's your baby then, isn't it? I know you've had these great accomplishments all throughout the years, but for your own debut album, that must be something
Yeah,
else.
that was that
Yeah.
was just me. That was me. That was my heart and soul that went into that.
Yeah. Let's
And
talk about a couple of songs as well. Crazy World, I love. So upbeat, like that's kind of, your happy anthem. That's your earworm, isn't it?
yeah, that's the instant. That's the instant hit, that one.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, it's quite apt for this world as well now.
Yeah. Indeed,
You
it
know,
is. I also really love Life Goes On. I think, how it starts off just with those keys and it's all sort of quite vulnerable, but then it builds and builds, doesn't it? And then
yeah,
before you know it, you've got another anthem.
yeah, that was the idea. I mean, that's all.
Yeah.
That's all. Lost love, etc., etc. Like
Yeah.
everybody's been through it at some point. So
That's it.
I was
So
hoping
relatable.
yeah, exactly. I was hoping that everybody would relate to it. 'Cause, I mean, I've been
Yeah.
through it. And that's well, I wrote it about that, past
Mm.
relationship I had. So
Mm.
yeah,
And and what's lovely as well, it's because you've got this amazing vocal, you can kind of draw us in because you can sing with that like vulnerability, but then you also can like go into these really punchy, like, super high, real rock voice. It's it's quite a gift that.
yeah. Well, thank you. Yeah. It's kind of it's kind of weird for me to talk. I can't even get the right words now. It's something I never realised I could do. I never
Mm.
realised I could do that, and I still feel kind of weird when people say it. It's like, oh,
That's why I wondered, when we were talking about young Jeff and when you started playing around with different instruments and then choosing the bass, whether you were kind of singing at the time and knowing that you had that kind of gift, the two for the price of one with you, isn't it?
but no, it's weird because I didn't because
Ah,
all the bands when I started playing with Wildfire, I mean Paul Murray O'Day, I mean Paul's like classically trained for a start, big barrel chest. I mean it's the power that came out of that man. Well, he was the first thing with Iron Maiden as well. Don't forget Paul. And he'd been with and after Wildfire he joined Sweet. Funnily enough, more incestuous
yeah.
musicians. But Paul had an incredible voice, amazing. He had that vulnerability and the power he had was incredible. And then with State Trooper, Gary Barden. I mean, Gary's got an incredible voice too, totally different from Paul's, but still unique. Like when you heard a record playing, you knew if it was Gary. You could tell it
Mm,
was Gary straight away.
mm, yeah.
And so I've always been in bands with incredible singers. When
Yeah.
I played with Bernie Marsden for a while.
Oh, yeah.
He had a
White
band called
Snake.
4/7s, and it was Cozy Powell sometimes played drums, and it was Bernie, a
Yeah.
mate of mine, Sid Twynham, who ended up in the Tremelos with me for 30 odd years later. Very small world, and Bernie was a great singer, and he
Yeah.
always brought good singers as well.
Yeah.
Um, every band I've ever been in has always had great singers, so I never thought of myself to take over. I never thought. I just thought, I'm happy doing backing vocals, and I was really happy doing backing vocals. So it's just that time when our singer, went home halfway through a tour in Germany, and Andy went, "Well, we've got to carry on." I thought we were gonna, Andy, because Andy sang most of "Love Is Like Oxygen" with Sweet. All the chorus is all Andy Scott. It's not Brian Connolly, it's Andy Scott. So I thought, well,
Ah,
he'll do that, obviously.
yeah.
And the keyboard player had a good voice, so I thought, well, he'll obviously copy to do that, and if I have to, then I'll do bits. And Andy went, no, no, you do it.
You do it. He
Oh,
knew. He knew before you even knew yourself, you see.
I, well, maybe
Yeah. Yeah.
I'd like to think that maybe he did see something that
Yeah.
I never
Yeah.
thought of. I just didn't
No.
think of it. So glad he did.
Yeah.
We had our ups and downs, me and Andy, but I totally respect the man,
Mm.
and his knowledge of music and production and harmonies and everything, he's second to none. So
Well,
for him to make me do that, I'm forever grateful.
yeah. And it's pushed you forward with all these things. So, and this album is brilliant, 23 years. There's also a secret track at the end as well. It's a little bit cheeky, isn't
Yeah.
it? Discovered that.
Well, yeah, that was kind of weird because I wrote the song literally sort of as the album we were doing the album. It kind of just come to me, and it's slightly different. Yeah, it's not quite like on the rock scene. It's a little bit sort of more, I suppose, new wave,
Mhm.
not British heavy, but new wave of, uh, I don't know, more like Cars, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
It was just a different
Yeah.
vibe.
Yeah.
So I said, "Hey, you should put it on the album." Oh, really? I said, "Oh," and then we come up with the idea of. We heard some other people do it in the past, just a secret track. We'll see who leaves
Yeah, we used to do that. We used to have the CD
yeah,
player on, and then you just, carry on with whatever you were doing afterwards, and then
yeah.
suddenly it's like, ooh,
Yeah, so where's
yeah,
that? Where's that? I can't see that anywhere. Where's that? And that was the idea of it. Well, we did a second
great.
press. We actually named the track on the second pressing of it. So
Um,
if you got one of the first ones where it's just a secret track, they're
Great.
rare. They're quite rare
Yeah,
now. Those ones.
yeah,
They're
definitely.
worth at least a pound more.
Ooh, big money. Let's talk about Cats in Space now. So, this is a really exciting band. So, you're touring throughout Europe until the end of next year with the Time Machine tour.
Yeah,
Just released the Time Machine album. And
yeah.
over the years, you've supported some real rock royalty, I
Oh
suppose.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And
yeah,
you've just released this latest single along with the video as well. The video is really cool, this Velvet Rush.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
so that must have been a bit of fun creating that.
Yeah, I mean, we've got this crazy video guy called James Heron who does all our visuals live as well. And he does it. He spends so much time on these videos and edits cuts, brings it back, and it's like he's the seventh cat, if you like. No, we've been lucky with cats. I mean, we in the first couple of years we got to tour with Deep Purple, we got to tour with
Yeah.
Thunder, we got to tour with Status Quo. We were on the Hyde Park Calling with Phil Collins and Mike and the Mechanics. Blondie was on the next day as well.
That's all awesome stuff, isn't it?
It's been very good. I mean, it's tough out there for an original band. It's very tough out there at the moment, but we're
Mm.
clawing our way through. This tour so far, because the tour has been happening about in all through October. We were touring the Cassie Space, the Time Machine tour. That's finished, but we start again on December the 11th.
This is the one. This is you're coming to the stables.
Yes,
Yes, so you're coming to the stables in
the
Wavendon.
11th.
That's up
Yes.
the road from us in Milton Keynes. And I did have a look earlier on. Tickets are flying.
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
selling well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
really, really good. And I wonder whether you can tell me what we could expect to hear at this gig. But I was listening last night to your Christmas single that you released a few years back, My
Yeah.
Kind of Christmas. And this is brilliant. Like this has all the ingredients, doesn't it? Like the classic Christmas hit with
It's
it's a
throwback
bit
70s.
wizard-esque, isn't it? You've
Yeah.
got the
It
kids
was designed
chorus.
it was designed to be the 70s feel good Christmas song.
Yeah.
That's what it was designed that way.
Yeah.
The original version we did with a video had a previous singer, guy called Mark, and he obviously when he left and we got the new guy Damien, and we've re-recorded the vocals on it, but we can't use the video anymore because it's not there. But Damien, he smashes it out of the ballpark, you know.
Oh,
But
yeah.
it is a very feel good Christmas song, and
Yeah.
which is what they do, like the
Very
Darkness did it.
catchy. Very catchy.
Mm.
So, what can we expect at the gig then in Wavendon on the 11th?
Well, there'll be about six. So I can't give too much away because we're all under secrecy. So there'll be songs from the Time Machine album, probably about 6 or 7 songs from the Time Machine album. A collection of songs from over the past 6 albums, the previous 6 albums. There'll be a collection of those and 1 or 2 surprises.
Ooh, oh wow! I wonder what that could be. Ooh,
So do
uh,
I.
they haven't told you yet. You don't even know. That's fantastic. So what's next for you next year?
Next year, well, I've got a lot to
With
do this year.
anything and everything, so many things, I guess.
Well, I've still got this week. We're on a day off today.
Rare for you.
Oh, we got back last night. So I've got a day off today, day off tomorrow, and then Thursday back out with the Trems. We've got 3 more dates with the Trems, and then Jukebox Heroes got a show on the Sunday over here. So Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I've got 4 shows coming this week. Got some more jukebox shows at the end of next week. Then I go home. I actually get 10 days at home.
Oh, how lovely.
Well, yeah, I've not spent more than 4 days at home in the last 2 months, 2.5 months. So it'd be nice
Crazy
to
life.
see the grandson, see my family.
Ah.
Yeah, I've got all soppy since he's been born. And then come back for the Cats in Space gig. So it's Stables, and then we're to Wolverhampton, I think it is, KK Steel Mill. We're doing Newbridge, and then we finish off. Come on. Oh, yeah, Islington Academy. Did the Islington Academy in
That'll be
London.
a good one.
That'd be great. Yeah, we did
Yeah.
it last year, and it was good. It was good. It's bloody cold, but it was good. Then I go home, got a few solo shows around over the Christmas period. Come back in January on the 3rd. Got 2 shows with the Trems in Skegness and Minehead, and then I fly home. I've got 2 days at home. Then Jukebox Heroes go to Germany for 3 weeks on a German tour.
You are a very, very busy man, aren't you?
Yeah, I actually thought I was going to slow down last year, and suddenly I'm twice as busy as I have been.
No, just keep on rocking. It's keeping you young, obviously, isn't it? It's all fantastic stuff that you're doing. Jeff, sexy Jeff as well. That's what we like to call you around here, sexy Jeff, in his leather pants. And you're a cool cat. What a cool cat you are, indeed.
There you go. I blame Chris and Keith at GN Holidays for that.
It won't grow old now, will it? It won't grow old. Thank you so much for joining me today. It's been brilliant to chat to you.